This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world. Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom and organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All those seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below. Check out TrueLeafMarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And good afternoon, if I could speak. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the beautiful blue planet. I'm halfway across the planet, still in Taiwan. We're going to do the milkfish update today. And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that they were trying to revalue and reprice everything by the week. So just a distant early warning from Asia out here, the repricing has stopped. The milkfish that was going up 10 NT a week, or about 30 cents per pound per week, was almost at the doubling point after a month. That has leveled off. The diesel prices remain the same. The gasoline prices remain the same. As we talked about last week, Formosa Plastics is still running at minimal capacity, and they're not delivering chemicals to South Korea, and they have really pulled back. So anything plastic piping is definitely affected. They're trying to prioritize food packing materials, knowing that that's going to cause a little bit of disruption. So the number one thing these plastics companies are now focusing in on is what is going to be used to pack food. Now, it depends on what feedstocks they have, but other things that are small plastic parts, think about motor cars, anything inside an automobile, plastic parts, that's being literally put on the back shelf. Food production's coming first. Anything plastic piping, construction materials, that's being put on the back shelf too. So just think about the needs and hierarchy of Maslow's hierarchy and what we need in our society as human civilization to continue food, water, security, energy. It's not plastic pipes, it's food. So as we come down and take a look at what is going to be and continue to be disrupted. So I was surprised none of the prices for the food have risen this week. Excuse me, I got a hair on my nose from our dogs here. But, next week, because the strait is blocked off. Now, I didn't watch the news because I'm on a 12-hour time period difference here. And why did I go there? Small. Okay, get me back up here, Maine. Oh, that's it. Sorry, Ransom. I jumped you off there. My bad. Throw that up. I'm on a 12-hour difference, so it's just in the morning here. I did not read the 12 hours of news when I'm sleeping. So Ransom was saying that there's been some more mines deposited in the Hormuz Strait in 2027. And did we not, Ransom, say this? 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And this is the same thing. Oh, this intervention in Iran's only going to take a few weeks. We're going to be out of here in a month. Oh, wait, it might take 2 months. Now they're talking 2027. This is the same exact playbook, same exact lengthening of the objective. Now it's 2027. So you're telling me that everything's going to go up in price weekly or monthly until 2027. Like the amount of wealth extraction from one segment of the population to another over these next 7 or 8 months. People at the end of this are just going to get really pinched in terms of affordability for foods. And I was wondering, could you throw that chart back up there? Because this is off Mike Adams. I pulled this from him. The number of oil refineries, and this is mainly oil refineries. Some fertilizer plants are in there. We'll come into the fertilizer late in the program too, because India is going to be hit. I got some new numbers from India. They're running at a 3-to-1 deficit, meaning their applications are running 3 times less than they actually can import. So India is going to be one of the first ones to be hit in terms of food shortages, price rises. But wasn't that the plan, Ransom? Did it depopulate India and the 2030 agenda, or the movement forward? India had to be depopulated by about 50%. And lo and behold, the fertilizer shortages are hitting there first. But what do you see on the map here? Can you dissect the map? I want to see your take on this, how your brain's looking through this clustering of patterns, destruction of infrastructure. Like, what do you see in the wider view from 30,000 foot here? And welcome everybody to the Civilization Cycle podcast every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Please share this link with your friends and family. The algorithm is none too kind. So grab the link, throw it off. We're going to talk about plastics, fuel, food pricing for sure, and how our world is I would say, strategically being disrupted, and how it's going to affect you for the rest of the year and you and your families. This is an important session that we're going to roll through tonight. Lots of graphs, lots of slides, lots of videos, lots of information you can share. So please share the link, and Ransom, take it away.
Well, we'll just start off here. You see that empty spot in the U.S. that doesn't have big fires on it? It's like right there in the middle.
Let me guess, Ransom, there's natural fires. Got to be brush fires, forest fires, all kind of
Right there.
amazing.
There's that empty spot right there.
Oh, great.
And actually, this is better than it was a little while ago because the winds have died down where I live down here. But they did have this whole area, half of Texas, almost all of New Mexico, all the way out here into Kansas for fire warnings because supposedly it's super dry. And this had nothing to do with that chart because I hadn't seen it yet when I pulled this up. I was going to tell people if you live in cow country, which is right here, you might see some more fires. If you don't remember, a couple years ago, global warming hit this area and lit a bunch of fires on purpose. I mean, on accident. Well, it was global warming, right?
It's always global warming ransom. It's always global, never human. It's always global warming, always human caused, never natural, right?
But that's that empty spot right there. And I was, I was actually going to bring that up. How much more a food infrastructure do we expect to see go up in flames this summer? Because I've been watching it at least for 10 years straight. There's been some kind of thing, especially it rapidly increasing in the last 5 years, where you see production plants, just, like anything that has to do with food going up. And then we've had train derailment and, like the whole infrastructure is falling apart. Nobody wants to admit it. Bridges, railroads, even the ports and things like that are some of the oldest, junk on there. So we're just waiting for a bunch of more disasters to happen, kind of like that barge hitting that one bridge there, and it's. I don't think it's up, is it? I don't know. I haven't been
Oh,
keeping
no, no,
track.
they haven't even broken ground. They haven't even removed all the debris out of there yet. They're still playing catch up with even removing the debris from the bridge. That was,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And, I was just going to skip over here. I don't even know what you have lined up, but, I asked the AI basically the same question reworded. I left out the population aspect of it and I just asked it world food price projection 2030 here. And according to the AI here, global food prices are expected to rise by 2030, with projections indicating 26% increase in grocery costs. And this has nothing to do with the war. If you get down here in their reason, and it's also 180% surge in agriculture commodities due to climate change right here. And if you get down here, they're blaming climate change and production costs due to climate change, rising insecurity. I mean, like the whole outlook, which is funny. And then you got the World Bank in there, in the mix, and we'll get back to that in a
Oh,
minute.
might want to click that link open to see what the World Bank long-term forecasts are there. That's all. That's always a real interesting to look at. Is like, oh, there's their commodity market outlook. Okay, so let's look at the commodity projections here. Now, see, it goes flat, which I can't believe. And now,
No.
they're going to have to increase that because every single thing I have seen is talking at least a minimum of 10% this year increase in prices, all the way up to somewhere around 23% just this year. So that 26 total in the next 4 years is kind of
Well, keep in mind,
doesn't make sense.
these are the same guys that are getting paid, or the only people getting paid right now in the Strait of Hormuz. So there's money going into the World Bank and World Economic Forum and all of these global projects that we're, supposedly it's us doing this war, it's Israel doing this war, it's the other countries, but the world organizations that have been set up. And some people say they're the bad guy. Some people say they're the good guy, whatever your view is on it. They are being set up to control everything and have their hands in everything. And that includes a world digital currency to straighten out these economic problems that we're having worldwide. And, I was harping on the air traffic controller thing, right? Because
You've been talking about AI getting into the air traffic control game for like years now.
yeah.
Years.
Well, now we're there. Here, if I can find it, I'll turn that off for a minute. But we're there. What stupid button? We're there. All of the things I was talking about, the reasons I was talking about. So supposedly, the human just can't keep track of it. It has too many. Just like what I predicted, they would say the human is too faulty. There's too many addictions, too much drama, too much, whatever you want to call it in the office. Fatigue and monotony, and they can't handle it, but the AI can. And now Palantir has volunteered to take over this job, and I'm pretty sure that you'll see them acquire this position here within the next couple of years, if I can find the article here. But just like I said, they're moving towards doing that, and at the same time, they're wondering, are we the bad guy? Are we the bad guys? Their employees are wondering that. FFA quietly developing AI-enabled predictive air traffic management system. And that's all I need. I don't even have to get into the details of it because we knew it, and it's the trajectories are smart trajectories down here. If you look at that, strategic management of airspace routing trajectories, it's smart. It's AI. It's here to replace you, like in
Well,
every
it's kind of
metric.
scary too, because what if there's a group of people on an airplane that are a threat, like these scientists that keep disappearing with the anti-gravity research, the zero point and exotic materials,
Their plane
genre
disappears.
and realms, David Wilcock. I mean, that whole genre of UFO researchers taken away. Now, what if an AI just decided that there's 8 of those people on a plane and they want to take the plane down? It wasn't us. It was there can't be mistakes from pilots anymore, could there? With air traffic control, oh wait, those 2 planes collided.
And
That was
what's
pilot
funny
error.
is this is really just them rolling out the idea that they've already had this type of control over it for a long time. We've all known that they have AI installed in the airplanes for a long time and the devices that it takes to remotely control the plane. I've been watching the test. Crashes and test piloting of this kind of technology since I was a kid out here at Holloman Air Force Base. They were practiced. Then they had the drone program, and if it wasn't obvious at the point that we started using like Predator drones and things like that, that you could remotely control an aircraft from anywhere in the world, because believe it or not, the people that are flying those planes over in the Middle East, they're not in the Middle East. They're right over here in the Southwest in little air conditioned trailers with 85-inch screens and a little joystick. And they have, one person that's there spotting stuff, another person piloting. When they get permission, they push the button and they blow up stuff just like video games. And, even the veterans of foreign wars had a issue with giving those pilots medals as if they were in the combat arena actually flying planes. So they're getting medals the same way that a pilot would get medals. And the VFW actually had a big problem with that. And they kind of folded that back and went quiet. And everybody thinks that, they stopped doing this. But since the time of Obama first allowing a sheriff's department to use a Predator drone for surveillance purposes, I think it was around 2009, 2010. Ever since then, they've been expanding their program, and now we have it where we have the laser stuff, you know, that they're setting up everywhere to knock down the drones, and then you got these guys. I can't take it anybody. One air traffic controller's mental health struggle. Controllers say the FFA medical reporting system discouraged them from seeking treatment. Well, they're about to get rid of all of them because they don't need them anymore. We just got this Palantir system that's already in charge of domestically spying in several different aspects of the field right now of technology. These big wigs, these different companies are going to be soaking up everything. And then, they're wondering if they're the bad guys. Well, not really, but it won't be long until that they're
Replaced also.
yeah, they're replaced. And speaking of that, it's not just here, it's off in China as well. They're telling them over there, guess what? You need to train your AI to replace you.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, the factory workers they had like 3D headsets on so they could watch their hand movements to train robots. Hey, can you go back to the mental health crisis? I'm curious what those air traffic controllers were. You had that one article up there about they don't want to get, yeah. So what kind of medical treatment are they looking for here? Because I wanted to relate that to the draft that's about to begin in America. Is it a mental health crisis or what is going on here? Are they depression? Okay.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so a lot of these things are being overlooked. Understand this. So when we come to the draft, do you think that they're going to overlook quite a few of these things too to get the boys in line to sacrifice for the homeland? Of course they will. They're going to turn a blind eye to any kind of weird mental illnesses that you don't want or need on the battlefield. And imagine giving these guys like live weapons, where if they disagree with you, they're actually able to pull the trigger. Like,
Uh,
it puts us into a scary scenario here where everybody's going to turn left and just go blind on all these ridiculous health problems that we have. They should be 50% of the people shouldn't be allowed to, maybe mentally ready to go over there.
Well, not to go woo woo so early in the show,
Go
but
woo, it's early, it's
um,
Thursday, we're allowed.
if you had an agenda to get rid of people and also an agenda to make them volunteer for it, you might, think about creating a war scenario in which literally the bots are the ones fighting, and then you're just shoving people literally into the meat grinder. And you've been watching that stuff in Ukraine. It's horrible. They have no chance. They're out there. They're at the whims of the technology, and they're not, you know, historically these governments like Russia, China, and the United States don't value the soldier as much as it values the advantage that it can get from something. So they're perfectly willing to send people into the meat grinder, and almost voluntarily. But it's not just that. That's the funny part about it. Well, it's not funny, but it's not just that. Like I said, back here, all the regular jobs are starting to be taken, even little stupid security jobs, like the mall cop. And we've been seeing these at different places in the U.S. They're using it for security around businesses. That now they're marching around in the cornfields. You can use them to get rid of pests. You can use it to find out who's poaching. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. But it's not just that. That's just the friendly aspect of it. They actually have a machine that'll go through there and pull all the corn. They have a machine now that they're working on that will pollinate the corn, because, as you know, pollinating the corn is kind of hard, and you put a little, sack on it and collect the stuff and then make sure it's on there. Um, they have machines that are learning how to do everything that humans do. And when you put it in perspective that they're now coming out with smaller and smaller drones, even pollinating can be done via technology. So maybe they're not really worried about the bees dying off. Maybe they're not really worried about some of these things that classically are environmental arguments about, the bees dying, the ozone, global warming. All of this stuff can be solved via AI and robotics. But what they don't need is a bunch of people. And they're going to be using these robots in a sense to do that. And then all around.
Well, wait, hold on a second, Ransom. Now that thing you just piqued my interest. You're saying that this thing can pull up crops too. So imagine
Well, not this
if
dog,
only
but
if
another.
only corporate America or corporate world is allowed to operate and grow food, and they deem your back gardens illegal, and then they just send those into a farm community and rip up anything that's growing that's not of corporate compliance in terms of seeds or seed technology. Oh, you're not growing it with any fertilizer given out by XYZ ag company. Well, you're not allowed to grow it then, because it has to be from an approved. You're not allowed to make your own fertilizers or compost on your own land. It has to be from an approved vendor. So that's an illegal grow, basically. So these things, I've seen something where they had ants that were also robots, but the ants were made to deconstruct, not to build a colony, but to rip a colony apart. And this is the direction they're going with, the deconstruction of and the use of robotics to deconstruct and destroy systems. And they're also, on the inverse, they're made to build systems faster and more resilient than humans can. So just put that into perspective. If it comes down one day where they deem your back garden illegal, then they'll just send a couple of these dog bots in, and they'll just go through the neighborhoods walking around. They have thermal cameras on them, so they can obviously see people come. And you could try to hide in a cornfield, but on a thermal camera, you're just going to glow. You're not going to be able to hide in that. And, just food for thought on the drones on the Civilization Cycle podcast Telegram feed just before the show. I'd put up one that had all the drones that were banging on these soldiers that couldn't get away, like dozens and dozens and dozens of them. I don't care what environment they're in, if they were in the forest, if they were in an urban environment, hiding in the rubbish, blending in, out into the grasslands with tarps that looked exactly like real camouflage tarp, where a human would miss the tarp. The bot or the drone picked right up on it, boom, and then you should see the size of the explosions. Like, there's just no way. And eventually, if we manufacture 8 billion of these drones, then one's going to be set aside for you too. And if AI is able to take over the skies and command of CENTCOM and any other military command, as well as control of the skies and that whole domain, they could set out billions of drones, one for each person, and just hunt and eliminate humanity, literally eliminate it. Because I saw these drones, it's very scary. These are military guys in top shape. They couldn't escape. There's no way to hide. It was thermal. Your camouflage isn't going to work. Your speed's useless against these things. And it was terrifying watching the video. I had to watch it a few times going, no way. How can these guys not get away from that? They were hiding behind trees. and the charges in there just blew through the trees, and the entire trunk shattered. That kind of explosive forces. So getting behind a wall, nothing. Jiving under a bunch of stuff, the entire building and the roof blows off 40 feet into the air, kind of concussion shock. I mean, these things are nasty. These drones are just deadly, man. Like incredible, dangerous, kind of wow.
Yeah, and that's where everyone's going. And when I mean everywhere, I mean everywhere and everything. Like even here, let's see, where was it? Here we go. How about you just go in the store? There is no people. There's just a little cubicle that the product comes through. So you're not going to have no flash mobs or none of that stuff. You're just going to have a little hole, a kiosk, and you're going to deal with an AI bot that's running the retail store. And good luck on customer service, or if things are messed up or wrong.
Returns, do not
I don't think
return.
so. They might do it the Amazon style, but it's like everything, even this, our war is all moving in that direction, all of it. They're talking about basically putting what would amount to aircraft carriers in low Earth orbit that could drop mass bombs, that could put out thousands of drones at a time. People really just don't understand what's coming, but it is coming, and it's all aspects of the world. All the major players are doing it. They might not be promoting it as much as the others. Um, Actually, this is a wrong article here, but
Is that your music in the background there?
no,
Oh,
I hear birds though, or
you
something,
hear birds?
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there are birds all over here. We got a bunch of big birds. I decided to move out into the countryside in Taiwan here too.
Yeah, it's quiet here.
Yeah,
Now,
and so it's the second pullback spot. Remember, as always, as directed, if everything goes south in both of these nations, my last pullback point is going to be Sumba Island in Indonesia, southwest Sumba Island. I know it's not as technologically advanced as many places in Indonesia, and that's the whole point. You want to step back in time where you're not affected by these things.
people are going to have to, get used to the Stone Age. It's very possible. I mean, there's a couple of upcoming things that could be like that. I don't know if you saw the guy on Infowars, but he was, I forgot the guy's name, but he's a scientist, and he was talking about the collapse of the magnetic field and how there would be places on Earth, like in the past, where the magnetic field was so low in those areas, it was basically like living on Mars. The temperature was low, the UV and the cosmic radiation high, plants were struggling, animals were struggling, and they literally would move to the only places that they could live. Now, I don't think that we're so close to that situation like on Mars, like kind of what he's talking about. However, he does have the only because the time period he was talking about was the disappearance of the Maya and stuff, and we kind of know what happened right there. That was right around 538, 539, the worst years to be alive. So we know there was a lot of geologic activity at that time, dust, extraterrestrial dust, and other things that just made it almost impossible for humans to live. If that would have lasted just a few more weeks or another month back in those years, we could have had total devastation of all of the ecological life on Earth. But thankfully, the skies cleared up, the sun came back out, and people went back to living. However, it's not a guarantee that things like that will happen. And then, to the time period of the war, I've been basing everything off of what they say. I always listen to what they say, even if they backtrack on it or change their mind. I always keep that date in mind. And when this first started, I remember Pete Hegseth saying that it could be till September, that it would take. And then they started talking about 3 or 4 days, which was laughable. And then there's a whole civil war with the Trump and Republican people, because, some of them were saying, hey, you said no more wars. And the other group saying, hey, shut up. We need to do this. But then in the meantime, they're saying, look, it's over. No, wait, look, it started again. And the argument's been going back and forth day to day, because these people act like everything's settled in one day. And that's never how these things happen. They always drag on for weeks, months, and years. You still see the repercussions of one of these actions. And you got so much stuff, even the AI is infiltrating what's going on there. You get scam messages offering ship safe transit.
Yeah, and again, what happens during that time of it's on again, it's off again, it's on again, it's off again. Every single day, the prices continue to rise.
Right.
If it can keep you distracted that way, oh, he's a bonehead. What did he do? Oh, it's good. He did this day. whatever's going on to distract you in the news, behind that, prices grind higher every single day. And that's what they don't want you to see, because you can directly put the correlation together of, okay, this is an on purpose blockade of the world's resources. And now that's driving up the price, and all it's doing is extracting wealth, because the people selling you these products are all getting higher share prices. We're looking at the stock market at all-time record highs. How do you get that? Well, you charge people more money.
Right.
That's how their profits are coming in. So when you go, yeah, stock market's at all-time record high, I would look at it in a little bit different fashion and say, gee, how much money have they stolen from us through, fake inflation and also just price gouging, and everybody turning a blind eye to this? That's money stolen from me
Right.
to raise those stock prices due to this, Hormuz thing, and amongst others. This is just the newest and the latest in the trajectory from 2001. I knew after 2001 the world changed forever, that it was going into a new chapter of time. That was before the whole 2012 thing. But anyway, you could already see that if you're even remotely half a quarter of a millionth of a percent awake, that after 9/11, that the world would never be the same again, ever. That it turned on purpose, and this was the new direction we were going. No different than coming to, a corner stop. You have to turn right or left. Can't go straight. You're at a T junction. We T junction in 9/11, and if you didn't see that, I'm sorry, you were behind the ball. Maybe you were asleep somewhere. But then, we hit it again in 2008. Clearly, you could see the financial system was being reset, held together by duct tape, just to get us to this next. And I didn't know what the next was, but I'm like, it's very close in here. This system can't go on for another full-on generation. Like you're talking about, things move slowly in these plans. They're on a 100-year plan. So when you're coming to the end of the previous plan, it's going to pivot, but it's going to be a slow pivot. So from 2008 to, let's say, 2019, when COVID started, that was barely more than a decade. But in 2008, watching that thing collapse, 2008 and 9, just, you knew the economy was changing too. So now we had two massive changes. You got the 9/11 change of society, and then you had the massive restructuring of all global finance in 2008. And you're going, okay, those are about 8 to 10 years apart. And then COVID came in 2020. And now we're here on 2024. So these things are all lining up to, it was at the end of it anyway. And in a long way to say, every time these events happened, what happened to us? Massive inflation came in. They printed more money to cover. And I do believe that a lot of this, I'm going to go woo here also, that we're coming into some sort of natural cataclysmic event that governments are preparing for. They can't come out and like money disappear, and they're getting ready for continuity of government underground to ride this out. But if there's all these exceptional circumstances when they need injections of capital to start the project, mid-project, finishing of, completion of, and then bringing us to where we are today, this is it. This is the closing act here. The final shutdown of everything. So, and I would also question, are the shortages as drastic as they're saying, or is this being used as a cover for the last of preparations to move materials into these underground facilities? And this is the last chance they get, because I'm very sure by 2030, there's going to be some sort of natural event.
Right.
Event.
Or multiple events.
Yeah. Sets of, that couple and dovetail and wind in on themselves.
And what's funny about this is, I think a lot of people get Trump wrong. He's notorious for saying that he would never tell anybody his plans about what he's going to do, not truthfully. He says that often. So it's kind of funny to me that so many people are mad that, a president of the United States isn't fulfilling his campaign promises, especially when he tells you, I'd never tell you what my real plans are. He says that about everything. And, this is funny right here. Iran fires on the first tanker, hours after they announce it's open, but it keeps going on and on, the game back and forth. Their chief negotiator said they're ready to reveal new cards for the battlefield. And I'm assuming that means some new weapons shipments from either Russia or China.
Yep.
And then you got here. Look, they just changed the headline on me. U.S. prepares for strike options for Iran's Strait of Hormuz. And if you haven't heard, they're hunting down any Iranian ships that are loose out there in the world. You have what I also predicted here is Japan wanting to upgrade their military now that they're contracts with the Western world are done. There's no restrictions on them from making nukes or any of that stuff. They're ready to get at it. And they have reason to do that. I mean, I saw on one of your last shows, you're talking to a guy that's in Japan, and they take it seriously over there. They do have a threat nearby. It's not only a historical threat, but a very possible near to the future threat to them. So you would expect them to be building up. And then, the
But that's
other thing,
piracy. What's happening? Like any other country, we're going to do that. Just take ships on the open water. Like any nation on the planet were to do that, oh, they'd be called out as pirates, and full on like coalitions would go out to stop them from taking the next ship. But here, America's doing it on the high
well,
seas, piracy at its highest levels.
it's World War III. I mean, that's exactly what we did in World War II. We went out and found people that were allied to our enemies. We stopped their ships. We took their shipments, and we stopped trade routes if we could. There was massive battles going on in North Africa to make sure that the Western powers took that back from the Nazis. Because what did the Nazis do? One of the first things they did is get into the Middle East, Northern Africa, right around Iran, all of that stuff. They wanted to make sure they had a presence there. And then, I was talking about this thing. It really doesn't seem like the governments are planning to have too many people in the near future. I mean, they're just doing stuff like they don't care. All of these green programs we know are completely toxic and we're not good long term because they break down and toxify areas. And they keep doing this other stuff. And here, look at this. They're showing the satellite images captured from all of the oil floating around in the Persian Gulf due to blowing up stuff and stuff sinking. And we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Where's Greta Thunberg? Where is she? She's not arguing about that. Actually, what she's doing right now is arguing that Cuba should get oil because all of a sudden oil is a good thing when it's places like Cuba because it runs everything, the electricity, the food market, the fertilizer, all of it. They know that, but that's what Greta's doing now. But it's funny that there's these games going back and forth. There's so many players right now involved in this game. It's not just the U.S. and Iran or Israel and Iran and the U.S. There's China, there's Russia, there's several different European countries that are putting their finger in it. But most of it's the World
What
Banks.
about what about a third of the oceans being poisoned, as the Bible references? Because Russia was hit also with some drone strikes at a major oil facility right there at the edge of the Black Sea, and it's spilling out 10,000 hectares, which is like 20,000 acres so far of covered oil slick in the Black Sea. So think about what the Bible might prophesy in terms of a third of the oceans would die. Is that from never-ending continuous oil spills floating in that are uncontrollable out into all the currents into the oceans here from this? Is that something we're thinking about? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a full-on nuclear war. To my point about people on the earth and the kind of players, the major players, the governments, the corporations, they don't seem to be planning ahead as if we're going to be living here or if there's going to be a large amount of people. And things like this start popping up because there's literally no place for people to build or live. If you don't own property or stuff. And, you got people in Hawaii complaining that they got homeless 2-story houses floating up on the on the edge of their properties. And this more and more of this is going to happen when you go over and
Oh,
look
that's
in
really
India.
interesting. Shit. I lived in Hawaii for a few years, and there were a lot of homeless in Hawaii anyway, because if they could get the ticket out there, it's warm all year round. Like, you try
Right.
to be homeless in Michigan, that's a very difficult task.
Look at that, man.
Hawaii, there's a lot of tourists coming in. People are always giving away money. There's things to do there. There's work. They can not even have to have a place to stay, just net in that cash. And there was a lot of homelessness in Hawaii, but even at that time, just deal with it. It wasn't really like they were not robbing and stealing too crazy.
Look, they
But
got stainless
so easy to have a
steel.
life there to be homeless because you had the beach, you could shower, you could always get clean. There was food around. You could dumpster dive. There's all kind of million to billion hospitality things going on, and it was warm all the time.
Right. But they didn't get permission.
Oh
So
no, they're destroying their home. No,
right,
Rancho.
they even had stainless steel sinks in there. I mean, locker rooms. But what's funny about this is whenever you go look in Southeast Asia, you see this everywhere.
That's normal. Like you go out onto a floating rice or a floating fish farm in Vietnam. That would be luxury because they got the roof over it. Come on now, you guys are misbehaving there. These guys are learning from what they did with all the travels in Southeast Asia. How many dudes go out for Indo surf trips and Philippine surf trips and come back and they're like, dude, we can rig this up with some bamboo. You know, we're set as jet. We could float with some bamboo and we got a house. Nice.
Right. You just can't do that in any of these modern countries, especially
Oh,
with
we're so
their Agenda
civilized.
2030 rules. You're not going to be floating down the river in your makeshift house.
It's a renewable resource. We're recycling.
Right. And, you're talking about poison in the world's waters. Well, it might be because, every little country and their brother now wants a nuclear weapon now that they've seen the contrast of treatment between like North Korea, per se, or India or Pakistan or any of the other people that just have a couple of them. Nobody's really messing with them as hard as, Iran, because they don't have one. That's why I knew that they didn't have one in the first place and that they weren't even close to having one, or we wouldn't, be so positive and confident about doing what we're doing there. But it was coming. It was coming.
Who can
And
donate one? Come on, donation baskets open, bro.
right. And then how we also bring up that it seems like you can't go visit the world's oldest places. If
Yeah.
it's not just a lone crazy guy that thinks he's and from what I hear, the guy thought that people were AI. He thought some of the foreigners were AI, maybe the Canadian woman, the Americans. He shot at all tourists. It's so funny because I've been there and it was so quiet, even with a lot of people. It was really quiet and relaxing there. And then to see these videos of people going nuts. But more than this, the whole area in Mexico is now turning violent in all of these places. I even had uh, a surprising uh, side trip on accident when we went to Mexico last time. We ended up actually driving down a cartel road and then realizing that we needed to back up and leave because they had lookouts everywhere and, they were wondering what we were doing. But this is where we're at. Like you said, it's
Oh, wait a second.
pirated.
How do you know what a cartel road is? Like, how do you even know that it's a cartel road?
Well, because of the armored trucks that were driving around and because of MS-13 spray painted on all of the seized homes that were near the road, we could tell that they had their men. They owned everything. And not only that, we almost got stopped on the highway when they were setting up a roadblock. And we could tell right away from just a distance that that was not real military. It was cartel. And they were setting up a roadblock so they could take what they wanted, do what they wanted, or whatever, they're going to do. And people are acting like that's not still happening just because we changed the headlines to a different part of the world.
Yeah, and I would say also, if you're talking about Lebanon and some of these older places in Syria and Iraq and Iran, you know, they're talking about using 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs on Babel, or Baalbek, excuse me. Like those are those very large 2,000-ton obelisks and rocks that they can't figure out how they would even carve them, why they would carve them, and a few of them got moved into different places and used as temple structure foundations. That is going to be destroyed. So think about why are they erasing that kind of history of it's just a megalith. It's a large giant stone. Why would you need to take a military in there and then destroy all those large stones? Unless they're trying to hide history, and that's always something.
Well, yeah, I always find it ironic that the places with the most answers you would think are countries that are either unfriendly to outside um, excavations or anthropology, or there's some kind of war zone going on, or the country that has it just doesn't want to dig. They don't want to. They don't want you digging. They don't want anybody else digging. Like Gobekli Tepe, you would think that the world would rush to uncover that, but I think we've got about 3% of it uncovered, and there's no plans to uncover the rest. So they're not really wanting to find out. They're going to milk that, for the next couple decades as long as they can to even because it kind of proves that there was a pre-flood civilization, and for whatever reason they built a library that showed extinct animals. It showed probably comet bombardment coming through the Milky Way and some other stuff that's on those stones. It looks like that's something like a knowledge library that they thought they needed to make, and then they buried it, which tells you that they didn't want to destroy it. Because think about if it was a literal cover up, like you find in other anthropological spots, like a new religion or a new people would come in and they would try to deface or bury what was there before or build a new monument on top of it. But whoever did that, they just buried it with sand. They weren't trying to destroy it. It was a literal cover up of information. Somebody did it on purpose, but it seems like they did want someone to find it someday.
In the Bosnian pyramids as well. And I know there's a lot of conjecture around that, but the amount of
Mhm.
artifacts and amount of worked stone in different passageways. I mean, I'm going to want to get out there for a while to really put my eyes on it and see if there's something legit. But people who have been there that are just normal people go, oh my God, this thing was built for sure. But the people who are trying to direct and control history, like it's a fake, that's not real. Look, it doesn't.
Well,
That's just natural stone fracturing. So, I would like to see
think about
myself.
this Bimini Road stuff that's all by Cuba.
Bimini
Nobody.
Road. Yeah, the sea levels had to have been. I'll tell you a story. I was checking out for my scuba diving lessons, and once we finished, I got my basic. Then got to go to a trip with my dive instructor who put together a little mini trip for like a week down to the Bahamas, and we went and dove on the Bimini Road because it wasn't that deep. It's only it was like 12 something feet deep, not very deep, 12, 14 feet deep, and it just shows that how much of sea level rise just to expose the Bimini Road. Like how far back in the past do you need to go? Where there were, let's say, well, I'll be generous, let's say 15 foot or even 10 foot less of water covering the entire planet. How far back do we need to go? 10,000 years prior. So something significant was there. And again, our U.S. Navy has mapped every square inch of the bottom of the ocean. And I guarantee off the continental shelf out there, they probably found several dozen, if not hundreds of full cities there at around the 400-foot depth level. Because that seems to be where like a lot of fishermen snag nets. And like here between Taiwan and China, there's a temple complex out there in about 200 foot of water. When it was dry here before, you could walk from Taiwan over to China before there were even nations, so you can't claim that land mass. But back then it was dry, and fishermen continuously snagged their nets on it. It's a no fish area because you're just going to drag and lose because the stones down there are just so large, and the temple complex is pretty, I'm not going to say vast like New York City, but it's a good couple acres of whatever it is down there. And even something as rudimentary as that, these things are everywhere. And then Yonaguni is just real close to here. And just there's so much of this happening and hidden history that's just feet under the water. So, and then if you look at like the Black Sea and off of Israel, there's a huge amount of very detailed cities with what we would consider city planning today, but that was at 40-foot level depth difference, which is a minimum of 8,000 to 9,000 years in the past. So as the Black Sea is riddled with cities underwater, all in the same level of about 40 foot. If you go to maximum glaciation, all the cities would have been pegged around 400 foot underwater today's level. 9,000, 10,000 years ago, you're looking at about 40 foot. So then where's the Bimini Road sit in if it's 20 foot? So there's all these uniform areas around the world in different sea levels when something had stabilized enough for a couple, 2, 3 generations where they thought, okay, we're done with the sea level rise. Now let's build something here. And then the sea level continued to go up after subsequent centuries, and then their settlements were put underwater. So it seems to have been multiple chapters of this coming out of the Younger Dryas era. And I'm just going to leave it there.
Well, that's what I was kind of joking about. You want to go looking for Atlantis around Cuba. Well, I don't know. There's been a communist regime there forever, and now we're probably going to have a war there, most likely. I wanted to point out this, though, right here.
You think that Atlantis is down near Cuba, not out in the Azores, huh?
You know what? If there was land in the Azores that was above the sea level, I wouldn't find it that surprising that much more land around Florida, Cuba, and all of those places were up above the water too, which means that there would have probably been a trading network all the way from Europe to the Yucatan. And there's evidence of that. It's just not a very popular theory because it would have to reset the way that everybody thinks about stuff. It's really funny because they always talk about the Aztec and they really don't even know where the Aztec came from. They just showed up, Stone Age tools using addles, in an area where people were living on top of monuments that had megalithic building at its foundation. So the Mayan came along, started building on something that was already there. And then the Aztec came at the end of all of that and tried to take it over with their cult of Quetzalcoatl. Um, so there was all kinds of weird stuff, but just think that's just another area right there. Speaking of which, in the Yucatan and all around there, you have a bunch of cartels. You can't really get out there and go looking for yourself through the jungle unless you're really brave, because you might run into people you don't want to run into. But I wanted you guys to really pay attention to this when you keep hearing, oh, it's all over, or it's going to be over tomorrow, or it's going to be over next week. Trump unveils 3-week extended ceasefire in Lebanon, but says all the time in the world to end the Iran war. Does that sound like it's ending anytime soon to you? If the guy that's perpetrating the war is saying, "I got all the time in the world to deal with that."
No, it sounds like we are going to be specifically continuous milking of this event. This is the end of the event. So this last century, in the 100-year plan culminates now before 2030. It's not going to end. That's the whole thing. You can't get it into everybody's mind. This doesn't ever end. It continues until the wealth is transferred from one segment of a society to another. And during that interim period, when it gets kind of tight and you can't eat, it's expensive, unless you're growing your own food, then they're going to introduce a new system, a digital one, and the old one is going to go away, which, I wanted to, show us a very unusual happening with the silver options market slide here when you're done with yours. I mean,
Oh yeah, we're done there.
it just doesn't. Let me show you on this one here. Let me share the screen. So there's some things that are unusual when you're trading futures, and this would be one of them. So if we're looking at the options trade here, let me see, can we wide that one out, maximize that one? Yeah, oh, I'm stepping on your toe. There we go. Most times when you're trading options, you're within a very small range of where the present price is. So let's say beans or soybeans or whatever, $8 a bushel, you're going to stay right in that range. So you might go up to 8.15, 8.20, maybe 9, and you're really high out of the call where you might, because the further away you go from the regular price that it is today, the less it costs you to hold that contract because it's really far away from where people expect it to, fall in on a winning position. So you can buy those contracts. They call them out of the money, which they're really far out. I bought some out of the money corn contracts back when they had that massive floods in Oklahoma. And I bought some, it was at $4, so I bought $8 out of the money contracts. It cost me like literally 30 cents to control hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of possible executed value at that time. So it was a few bucks to control that. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go out of the money. If it really does go that high up and there's really catastrophic losses, I'll have a chance to, whip in on a couple $100,000 for, a few $100 down. Literally, so when you go out of the money, even just a couple of dollars, that's the price reduction it is. But here's the thing, like, where's our price today for silver, Ransom, do you think? I was looking, it was like around 75 when I checked before the show. Look at the red box. What is the red box? That is the out of the money calls at $900 and $1,000. Like, this is so unthinkable that, I mean, even it's almost zero possibility, like less than zero possibility. Nobody has ever really done this ever, to go that far out of the money to buy contract calls. And if you did one and there was some weirdo like myself that went way out of the money on corn up to $8, when it was at 4, thinking it might double, okay, there might be a couple of me that are going double on the price. I'll go out of the money, $8 on corn. Okay, this is $75 silver. Who's going up to $900 to $1,000 out of the money call? But look where the big money is positioned itself. This is hundreds of millions of dollars put into this right here. The most action seems to be, or the calls are going to be around $950 to $1,000 on silver. What is going on? Who knows something that they're like? That's really insanity. Like, even if I would put it in 150 and be out of the money on 150, you'd think I was kind of insane. Like, you think silver is going to go up by the end of the year in December to 150? That's about double what it was. It's going to be way past the all-time record price that it was a few months back. And 150, that'd be a struggle at best to even convince myself to go out of the money at 150. But they're going millions and millions and millions down to hold these contracts at $1,000 or $900 silver call. That for me is insanity. Because look way down, if you go to the left of the chart, what do you see? Well, the money calls are actually right around where that $100 mark is. If you go further back off the chart here, which he didn't post it, there's a same kind of spike, but back around 75, 80. Nobody's barely even at 100. Barely anybody above anything at 100. And then we got that gap between 200 and 300. And then suddenly it starts to ramp up. You get a little action. Like, who is getting a $600, $700, $800 calls is insane anyway. But then look, somebody knows something's coming here. That's all I'm going to say. Somebody knows something's coming. And here we go. I'll give you the details. Insiders have been buying $1,000, $900 to $1,000 call options for December of 2026. Silver's at 80. So it's a 12x increase in just a few months. We're talking about 10 to 15 times above the current price. So who would ever expect such a move unless you know the move is coming? Like all these poly market players that get ahead of $400 million and bets on when oil is going to go up or down 15 minutes before Trump gives the announcement of something on his escapades for the day to make markets move. Insider trading, but it's allowed because it's poly market. It's not an actual market, is it? No, it's not a regulated stock market. It's not insider trading. It's decentralized crypto platform trading. Okay, same, but different. But somebody knows something's coming here. That's all I'm going to say is big money. This is big money. This is giant money. This is not me and Ransom going, I'm going to get way out of the money. 5 dudes on a Thursday, I'm going to go out of the money on that. This is institutional money coming in, making these calls here. Yeah. And then we're talking like 80,000 contracts of 5,000 ounces each of silver. One contract would be 5,000 ounces of silver. And you're going to have to put a percentage of that. And since they really did away with a lot of these margins and things, it's not going to be just pennies anymore to hold these way out of the money contracts or a few bucks. They're going to be pinching you for like 20% of the actual entire value of the contract. So let's do one contract at $5,000 and you have to put 20% of that full value, and we'll call it 80. So the 40 million, you need to put down 20% of that. You got to, and then they're going to multiply that by 75,000 of those contracts of the money. We're to hundreds of millions of dollars is sitting here of money they had to pledge to get these contracts in. I don't understand it. There's something going on here. So anyway, take it for what it's worth. There's big changes coming in the economies. Nobody does this with silver unless you know something. And I'm just really surprised that they're all clustered. And it's not like 10 contracts. It's combined hundreds of thousands, if not a million contracts sandwiched in there at that same time. So you do the math. Somebody knows something. Nobody puts that kind of money down that they're going to lose on 100%. Pretty much sure it's never going that high bet, unless they know it's going to go that high. Now, what will that do for us here? Now, Ransom, what happens if we get $1,000 silver? What happens to our lives? Mute.
You mean like right away if I got $1,000 worth of silver?
Well, yeah, but I mean the inflation for that and the cost of living, it would just be it would so outstrip everything so fast.
Wow, it wouldn't do nothing because I would just store it for a later time where it's a better option than money. And
Yeah,
it's funny that you were talking about that. I forgot what the guy's name is, but they're charging the one soldier for using the poly market, knowing that the operation was going to come to remove Maduro, and he made a bunch of money betting on it because he knew he was going. You know what I mean? So that's on the lower end. They're going to prosecute him, but the people at the top end that are making millions, maybe even billions, knowing that something's going to happen, they're not going to get messed with. No, they only mess with if your name is Madoff, and it sounds like you're a made up person. Bernie Madoff with the cash, then you'll get prosecuted. You're not going to. none of those other people will even know who they were.
Madoff wanted to leave the club, and they punished him for doing so.
He robbed from the wrong end.
Yeah, I know. Anytime you want to leave, you can check in, but you can never leave. I don't know. We're going to go on the break here. Thank you for joining us for the first hour. We're going to come back. I have some more images lined up. We're going to talk about wheat also and the plastics, what it's going to cost for us to get our food packed in the future here. Please sign up for the civilizationcycle.com show notes. I'll be having that out after the show. Actually, it's going out at noon today, Eastern Standard Time. And buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. We'll read a few of the comments through there as we come on back. Second hour, it's going to blow your mind on how expensive your life might become if this thing drags on much longer. Then everything's already priced in, and we're going to run through some prices, including wheat, how that's going to go first, and the rest of the food prices to follow, along with 10% increases in transportation based on the diesel fuel and what the industry is talking about. So join us for the second hour. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom and organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All those seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below to check out TrueLeafMarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast. Product you love, the 72-hour emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Not only emergency food, but camping food, and you can prepare that through the week as well. 20 delicious just add water meals. Think about creamy mac and cheese, hearty chili, sweet oatmeal. 2,000 calories a day. You need the calories. You're going to need to think and move. And the mashed potatoes, easier to make than oats, and you can add your own flavors. Goes with anything. For less than a couple of takeout meals at a fast food restaurant, get real peace of mind. And a real question to ask, how long could your family eat without leaving home? My Patriot Supply, click on that link in the description box below. It helps the channel. Truth is hard to say and hard to hear. Most people choose silence. We choose to speak. Your support of our sponsor keeps the Civilization Cycle podcast on air and giving us the courage to keep digging. That link's in the description box below. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, Think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And welcome back for the second hour here, the Civilization Cycle podcast. Had a bunch of action going on in the background, trying to get down and get the color arranged in here and get the lighting better. But welcome back. We are going to dive right into the Civilization Cycle over on, my brain got a reset here. Help for a second. I want to share the Civilization Cycle podcast. Buy me a coffee site. Thank you, Joe Burbine, for buying us a double espresso. Was looking to book a flight to Manila a few months ago. Wife got excited due to how cheap it was. Then I saw the final price went, why did it jump up? And they added $700 fuel surcharge. Wait a second, that's huge. $700 fuel surcharge to go. Like when we flew out to Asia here, we had our tickets with Korean Airlines, and we didn't get hit with a fuel surcharge, but we needed to bounce through Seoul to come over here. So you think they would have added one because you had to add two flights, not direct. So $700 fuel surcharge, again, to the ticket price, and then they're going to gouge you with the ticket price. So you understand, this is the way it's going. And let me see, I was over on Telegram earlier looking for some, okay, Lufthansa cuts 20,000 flights as the war squeezes fuel prices and supplies. We also saw last week during our program when we were talking about the Qantas Airlines also. And then I have the one off of InfoWars this morning. Brussels scrambles as fuel shortages hit Europe. Airlines cut flights, fuel prices surge. So the EU's commission is going to unveil the emergency energy package on Wednesday. And I think that was yesterday, but we will see. But you can see everywhere. What else was the goal that was going to be met during the 2030 goals? They were not going to allow you to fly. Air transportation across the globe would be cut to basically 90% less than it is today. They talked about this, with the World Economic Forum ad infinitum, that you will fly less, you will have little clothes, you will eat the insects. They talked about this. Every single goal management moving forward was to limit and restrict air travel to only the ultra wealthy with private airlines, or only you, one bucket seat per year to be able to take a flight. Remember, that was the plan. And then suddenly this disruption allows all these plans to come into play. And you see every airline across the entire planet starting to reduce their flight capacity now, even in the United States. Sprint Airlines, saw Trump put out a tweet that he wants to buy Sprint almost nothing, no debt, because they're not going to be able to operate. They were operating so many flights on such thin margin. That's how they were able to bring it in, on the sheer number of flights. And someone bought a double espresso. Thank you very much. Someone bought 3 double espressos. Thank you for the conversation. Well, BB, thank you for being here with us. And NJ in Texas bought us 5 double espressos. Appreciate that. We're always going to do the research for you here. And away we go with the show. Now, Ransom, just before that second hour we were on, kicking it off here, talking about some fertilizer prices and also what it was. So look at the airlines. Like, you've been delving into a few airline stories yourself over the last couple of days. Does it seem like this is the plan that's just coming to fruition, that's moving out wider, that they're really limiting air travel for the average person, that this is the trajectory we go down from now, where airlines never recover? We'd never get airline travel to the level it was prior to this. And this is where the new world's going to revolve around, this very, 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 very limited air movement across the planet, except for cargo.
I think it'll rebound eventually. The question is just how long it'll take, because I know for a fact that they have issues with all kinds of angles in the traditional airline industry right now, with not only from personnel to maintenance to quality checks. They've had problems in production of parts for replacements. But this is all leading one place, and that was the Palantir kind of business model, where the AI is going to run everything. Now, I have a feeling that you're going to see in the next 5 years a bunch of new model aircraft come out that have mostly AI control on them. And I've seen some of the companies offering stuff, like where you could lay down and all these different things, even for the economy flights. So I don't think it's going to go away. It's just going to be stalled out until they replace it with a new system. Just like everything, we're being retrofitted to an AI robotic economy. And while that happens, a lot of stuff has to be destroyed and built back up from scratch. And I think the airline is one of their main targets. And this is what you were talking about here: possible Spirit rescue fuels, new fears about government involvement in business to buy out. The U.S. could end up owning 90% of the struggling budget airline, and a potential deal under discussion. Yeah, I was looking at that too. That's another one that was indicating that, they're really going to shut down world travel. But while they're doing that, they might as well have a little forever war. And like I was saying, these are some key indicators into that it's not going to stop anytime soon. I mentioned the quote here: all the time in the world to end the Iran war. Here's one where they're already getting money into the central banks. Here, this one's a big one to tell you that we are going to have a ground war. Air Force extends use of the attack plane, the A-10 Warthog, because we're planning on using it. And if you know about this aircraft, it is for a ground invasion. It's to support ground troops. It's a very slow-moving jet with a lot of firepower. This is how they clean up areas of resistance. Let's just put it that way. So if we're going to go back into production and keep using this, that these conflicts are going to last for a while. Plus, this one's the main bingo card right here. Iran deploys more mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Sources say, and I saw a guy representing the Pentagon talking about that even if they put out 50 mines, it would take them until December of the end of the year to make sure that they're all cleared out, defused, removed, and that the people that are putting them out in the water no longer have access. So, where it goes, nobody knows. But yeah, like you said. Oh, and this, I saw this out of Australia here. Aussies warned about the nation's reliance on the Strait of Malacca.
Malacca.
Malacca. As tanker traffic plummets.
Yeah, that's the whole reason that the Crate Strait was going to be put through. I think they call it the Crate Strait because if the Crate snakes are there, those are some damn dangerous snakes. Those are the black and white striped ones, one of the most poisonous snakes on the planet. There's that isthmus. Oh, it's called the Craw Isthmus. The Craw Isthmus. So if you go from just before the Malacca Strait coming around, you would come through a small point there in Indonesia to the thinnest of the land masses. Let me pull up a map for you so you can see it. And what they were planning to do. Now, this has been ongoing for some time. It's not a new thought of just, wow, yesterday that they thought about coming through and interjoining that. So this has been an ongoing talk of this thing here forever. It's not new at all. Let me find you a better resolution map than that one. So the whole idea is just like the Panama Canal, right? We have a Panama Canal. And just like anything else, if you can cut that distance, it would make tremendous sense to do so. So let me, yeah, you got that right there. Go up to where it says Surat Thani, then come down a little bit from right where I said, go to the very top and it says Surat Thani. Pull the map down to where it says Thailand there. Are you able to pull the map down, or is that your full map? Okay, let me share this one with you. This one will show you right in the center there where we're at. Okay, so if we come to right here, we're just north of Surat Thani where that last map stopped. This right here going across is called the Craw Isthmus, the Craw Isthmus. It's at the very end of Myanmar, right down here at the very tip, and it comes across, I think it's 44 kilometers, and then do 6 times 4, 24. It's about 26 miles across from here. And then there's Koh Tao, the famous, not Koh Tao, that's Koh Samui, and then Koh Tao's off here, the famous scuba diving island. They plan, and they have been working on this for centuries, plural centuries. There's a set of estuaries that goes through here. So they've been trying to, over time, and it's been many rulers and many people have talked about this, engineering groups, and during World War II and all these things, to come across this isthmus right here. They never did it. But as you can see, the Malacca Strait goes way down around Singapore, But if you can cut this off, you can come right through here and then right up to Vietnam and to Cambodia. The river system is supposed to come out and bypass the Mekong Delta in Vietnam. The Chinese have been working with Cambodia to bring the front of Mekong straight out into the ocean, bypassing that. So there would be two river ejection points coming into the Gulf of Thailand. And that's where we sit. And that's what they're trying to do. So bypassing the Malacca Strait, the only way to do that currently is you go to a place called Sitwe in northern Myanmar, and there's a big old port up there called Jakpu, and you can unload up their oil, and this is for China, and then they send it overland through a very small amount of Myanmar, and it pops in over in Yunnan province, and then up to Kunming by rail and road and pipeline. That is the only way currently to bypass the Malacca Strait, because this is the next choke point that Trump's talking about controlling, that no ships are coming in and out from any of America's enemies through this. And this is a very important one, equally as important as the Hormuz Strait is. There's more energy and goods that come through the Malacca Strait than anywhere. That's why they just removed all pirates out of there. You're a pirate, you're dead in that zone. They come at you from every way from Sunday with 16 militaries to clear that out. You ain't playing there. But in the Philippines, that's a completely different story. So I'm just going to leave it that. And
well, I'm not like a whiz at nothing or business model, but like I go through the things, and I have a good memory of articles that came out in previous years. And, year after year, I'm showing you guys these layoffs and percentage of buyouts and people. And I don't know what it is year after year added up, but I'm looking at like, they have 7% here, 10% there, 15% of their workforce. How many years do you do that in a row before you almost have no workforce, so to speak? And like, here's some of this. Meta axes 8,000 jobs right here. Doubles down on their AI. Of course, the AI is going to help with the white collar bloodbath that they're calling it here. 10% of its entire staff next week.
The white collar bloodbath, is that what they're calling it? Is that a new nickname for it?
Right. And for whatever reason, they block out this. But down here, you see Microsoft offers buyout for up to 7% of its U.S. employees. My point is that they've been doing this year after year. It's not just so you see this headline, oh, well, 7%, that's not that much. But it's been happening year after year after year. And then you start looking at the production. Like we've been talking about the plastics, the PVCs, all of that stuff for construction, maintenance, new growth, new house building. And here's another one, aluminum market shock, right? And you've been talking about that a lot, but think about all of the products that you get with aluminum in it, especially, but not limited to those tasty beverages that Americans consume at an alarming rate, right? It's just can after can after can. People are drinking like a 12-pack a day. And they need, in order for you to even be able to get that $8 12-pack of soda, there has to be aluminum cans. And then when you're thinking about this, well, that's all right. They can fall back on plastic bottles. Right? No, they can't, because there's a shortage of that too. So you can see that this stuff is starting to branch out all across the economy in every sector. Right here is the good description of it. Deepening supply shock.
Yeah, they might have a chart further down if you could scroll down, because that's the Geneva Bay. That's the Geneva companies are talking. There you go. So if you go back in, you can see there's some similarities of when the war starts. Like things really spiked up when Russia invaded Ukraine. Everybody's like, the world's like, year of war.
Right.
Everything came back down. But this is going, I do believe, to go higher because it's such a more vast and wide area that's, much more disruptive in terms of energy. Like they disrupted a lot of agriculture and things in Ukraine. But then we got into that whole disruption of energy finally, but it peaked, it spiked, and then it's down. But this spike, I believe, is going to go far, far higher on that. Some people I've seen, they're looking at 10,000 aluminum, that far higher. You're at 3,500 now. They're looking at like 10,000 aluminum.
Right.
The cost to buy everything is going to be so tremendously higher. It's not about the oil. It's not about the natural gas. It's everything, the delivery chains, everything you could possibly use in anything to manufacture anything is going up in price everywhere. That's the whole thing. It's not really locked into just like agricultural products. Like, yeah, aluminum, and then steel's doing the same thing, and tungsten, and molybdenum, and anything you need for oil refinery, anything oil, they need molybdenum in the pipes to really harden those things off. Anywhere of any metal that you're looking at, including gold and silver, steel's going up too. And then you get all the plastics, and the plastics are going to get really thin here. I'm dead. My mark is on this. Mark this in time here, Ransom. Beginning to middle of June is when all these price spikes are going to hit us at the same time across everywhere, shape, form, vertical, any way you can even move, breathe, or touch, or spin in a circle. You're going to get hit everywhere. There's nowhere to escape this because it totally covers everything.
Well, what do you think? All of these, just to get woo woo there, when you see all of these layoffs year after year for consecutive years in a row, and production being pulled back, and then all of a sudden you have a supply chain issue for all of the products that also it's hard for me to believe that the people in these businesses didn't know that there was going to be a slowdown and a reset coming. That's why they started slowly laying off all of their employees 5 years ago. It started happening. And, we have all of this supposed job growth. Turns out there hasn't been any real job growth. All that's happened is there's a vacuum of people leaving or getting fired, and they're having to find new jobs. But eventually, all of these people that have specialized in going to the next level of tech and jobs, they're all being reduced down to being jobless now, after all of that work and wealth that they put into getting in the positions, like the schooling and buying their equipment so they could go out and do IT on their own or whatever. That's all evaporating. So what do people do for a living? And I kind of want to
wait. Now let me put the next layer on top of there, because when this thing constricts down, the companies are never going to expand back up again. So once the constriction comes down to where it is, that's where the new level will be. And if there's limited production, it's just supply and demand. You're going to pay more for everything. The amount of supplied materials and products and finished goods on the planet, once that shrinks, that's where it stays, at least for the rest of our lifetimes, multiple generations before they recycle this and start it back up again in 20 to 30 years. Now, will it stay like this forever? No, not at all. But during this time, yes.
Supposedly they have the solution here. Here's Elon Musk talking about universal high income via checks issued by the federal government is the best way to deal with the unemployment caused by AI. AI and robotics will produce goods and services far in excess of the increase in the money supply, so there won't be inflation. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it at all. Don't worry about having no job. You got the highest paid guy.
It's going to get expensive for the governments to do that, and they are going to get rid of those people.
Right. Well, that's it. It circles back around into population, right? But for those that are still around, I guess they could sit on their butt with the imaginary money. It's always been imaginary money, but now you get a universal basic income, and you have the one of the richest guys in the world talking about doing exactly that constantly. And this is the same guy that's talking about transforming government and moving off world and all of these other things. But I thought you would find that interesting because we're always talking about that universal basic income, and he calls it something else. It's a universal high income.
Yeah, how high is high? Like, how much do you think you would need, Ransom, per month to be able to? So let's say you could dictate and you could say, all right, this is how much I need for my own universal basic income. They might actually let you do this, determine what you would need per month. Like, how much do you think per month you would request? And you can't do like 100,000 a month. They'll just reject that. I mean, like, come on, dude. Like, really, you're going to have to be more of a realistic somewhere in there,
I think, like if I was being honest, I would say, I could survive off of $3,000 a month or something like that, and
12,000 do too minimum, bad. Man. 12,000 minimum a month. Come on.
But if you're somebody that doesn't own their home, doesn't own their car, has to pay full coverage car insurance because you have a new car and you haven't paid it off. I mean, all of that stuff adds up, especially with their health insurance. If they have kids, they got, it just skyrockets into tens of thousands of dollars. But yeah, I don't think that, and what would happen if everybody started getting that, then they would adjust the prices to equally match. I mean, we've talked about that before. They're only going to give you enough to cover your utilities. And if you maybe trinkets and some, maybe not even the snack food, because, they're cutting that off of the digital soup kitchen, at least in most states.
You
People
won't
are
be
going to
able to
have to
have any
learn how to eat
pets.
food.
Well, that won't include pet food. Like, you're not going to have the luxury of having a pet if you're going to be on the basic income
No,
stream, right?
no. And if you've been paying attention to trends over the last 5 years, they want you to get rid of those pets. They're bad for the planet, right? They've
But
been
good for your
talking about
mental
that.
health. That's the thing. You're trading off good for the mental health, bad for the planet. How are they bad for the planet? Been dogs and cats
Well,
on this planet for like forever.
because they have to produce the massive amounts of GMO feed to feed those animals. And, and if they're going to be reducing the markets in poultry, meat, and pork for human consumption, well, guess who also is going to get hit hard? It's the pet market because they use all of the excess that comes out of those industries.
Yeah, because at some point that, unless they can force the prices down because of AI and different production. But again, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. That's called price fixing, and that never works ever. And then how much can you really give? Now, maybe it'll be a good idea to get people, buy them a few years of time by paying inflated money away. I'm absolutely sure of this. Everybody, please listen. If you're going to take the programs, you are going to be a burden on the system. At that point, do they have the right to eliminate you because you're a burden on the system? Where if people who chose not to get on the system will be more left alone than those who chose to take the system. This is the point. They are never, ever going to let everybody live out the rest of their days getting free money, never working again, never paying tax again, never being shoved under the thumb screw to work and do all this because they have to pay their bills. They're never going to let humanity go free like that, ever. Never. They're milking you, your negative emotions, your stress, your turmoil. That is their energy. They are never going to let their energy source slip, ever. Woo-woo for a Thursday night,
I can't find the article right off the bat, but there's another case, and I think it's in Europe, maybe it's in Canada, of a woman that feels like, because her relationship ended, she has a broken heart and she no longer wants to live on the earth and would like to travel on to the next world. And they're doing that. I saw a video the other day where an older gentleman had already signed the paperwork to take the trip to the next world. But then changed his mind and had his family, they were having to block the police. The police came to get him, to take him. And they were telling him, no, you're not coming in our house. You're not taking him. He's changed his mind. And they're not taking no for an answer. They won't leave. So this is going to be happening more and more. And if it spreads to other countries, this idea that, for different reasons, you can just get rid of people. Then if that idea spreads to the United States, which it has in 12 states, this argument, it's going up for laws and stuff. What's to stop them from just saying, well, middle-aged Americans are too weak, too sad, and on too many drugs to deal with anything. We could offer them this program to help them.
And then sell your organs to a donor, because your human body's worth millions and millions and millions of dollars on the organ transplant market.
Right.
Well, you're getting $1 million for a heart, $2 million for a liver, these kind of things, like your kidneys, your eyes. These are like super high dollar products. Like, you're talking about very high value. Each human's worth over 10 million just for your body parts.
And somewhere where it gets down in here, yeah, right here. So basically what they're saying is U.S. adult midlife are reporting loneliness, depressive symptoms, while also showing worse memory and grip strength less than that other cohorts in other countries. So, we're joking around about these little flimsy robots that they want to put in your house to keep you company. So if you're one of these couples that didn't want to have children and, you got a little bit of wealth, you might dump $100,000 into a robot that does a little bit of chores around the house and everything. But what happens if that robot turns against you for any reason? A malfunction, maybe it's state sponsored, that you've come up to your retirement age. If you got less grip strength and worse memory and all this stuff, you're not really going to fight off that robot, are you? It's just going to hold you down till they pick you up.
What was that movie where you were allowed to live to a certain time and then they escaped out through the top hatch and got out of there? It wasn't Blade Runner. It was a different one where everybody could live to a certain age and then they decided to escape when it came to their day to go to the
I forgot what the name
recirculating chamber. What movie was that?
I forgot the name of it, but I could tell you the whole movie.
Yeah, me too. I could tell you the whole movie, but I can't remember the name. See, my memory is slipping. Don't take me to the chamber, dudes. My
Right.
strength is pretty hard working on a farm. You know, grabbing tools and stuff. I guarantee I could pass that grip strength test.
And then you got this.
What is the Q day? I know
The,
the O day.
this is whenever we finally get our quantum crypto. Then we live in the quantum crypto universe, all digital.
I don't understand that, man. I know a little crap about crypto. I'm not really that savvy in it. I know a little bit about it, but I just don't understand this Q thing, like the quantum crypto, quantum proof crypto. That's a whole big thing. But I don't understand this whole quantum crypto in itself.
I'll get my robot on it to tell me what
Yeah,
it
okay,
means.
thanks.
No, basically, we're getting to the age that your cryptocurrency it's not really safe either because there's AI programs that could crack it now,
Now,
and
I would like to
they're
see
going to
that
have
done in
to.
real. I want to see it done in real time. If you could scroll down in the article where you had the ECC 256, I think it was. I looked at it real quick. Yeah, ECC 256. Like that was an upgrade from the ERC20 tokens. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I just like delve into this stuff a little bit. I don't really. There's people who know way more than me. But I would like to see somebody who can do this in real time because for me, this sounds like a fluff piece to scare everybody away from buying crypto. As crypto is starting to run up here in this next bull run, a lot of people say we've already hit the bottom, that the 4-year cycle is no longer valid because of all the institutional adoption, and they faked everybody out by dropping the price. Because I myself looking and never hit the RSI or got any of those overbought signals during the last bull run, but it just like projecting it out into the monthly, it looked around somewhere October, November of 2025. I should have taken my own advice and sold, but I didn't. So I'm still holding that shiznizzle as it's gone down. But I would love to see it in real time, somebody break the encryption on this versus just somebody saying they could do it in a projected 9 minutes. Projected that the computer could do it in 9 minutes. I get it. That's true. But did you do it? I want somebody that's standing there with a cryptographic wallet, with a hard wallet, and I want you to crack that and get my phrase out of there, my private key out, and take the funds out cryptographically, breaking that in front. That would be a great experiment, to have somebody rack this up and see, because it's all talk and conjecture at the moment. I just, this is the dissuasion of you buying cryptocurrency article type of thing. Until I can see it in real time, I don't believe it.
Well, I have no idea because I don't have it. But considering that they can crack into almost any device now, I wouldn't put too much doubts on that. Nothing. And plus, when people program things, they always leave back doors into things.
And the answer to our question, Ransom, Logan's Run.
Logan's Run.
That's the
right.
movie. Yeah. We're all going to have to be Logans. We're going to be little Logans.
Yeah, don't they get out though? And then they go out there and there's a whole world. The guy's living in a library and stuff and shows them books, those paperback books that they don't have.
What? Yeah, the cryptography thing too, I understand they could break into a lot of devices and that's just simply cracking a password. All right, I get that. Totally feasible, doable. And let me see, I thought I had an article about, here it is. Yeah, staying with that. No, that was the wrong one. They're able to tag you now by using something other than cookies on your computer. And answer to how deep is the Bimini Road? 18 feet deep. So sea level rise 9,000 years prior to when that was. So people are already over there doing that. And shit, I can't find it. That must be on my other computer. Well, they're able now to just discern who you are and figure out what you're operating just by these things like your screen resolution. Do you have an ad blocker on? All these things to try to bid in to force an ad under you. Like even if you've opted out of every single thing on your computer that you could possibly opt out of, they're still able to determine who you are and what you are all about to serve you ads. So let me see if I can find that here. Man, I got too much stuff open at the same time. I'm one of those people who got like 30 windows open. So go ahead, Ransom. Let me see. Go ahead and take it over again here while I find this article if I can.
Well, what's funny is, I keep hearing everybody talking about panicans and doomers and stuff, but when you keep seeing these charts like this and stuff like this, it's hard to come to a conclusion. And I was going to bring up Apophis as something that might actually be more concerning.
Oh, yeah, I sent you that chart. Let me explain that real quick. This is a no-brainer for anybody out there. India is going to get crushed hard first and fast. So whatever happens in India with the fertilizer is going to roll to the rest of the world. So this is an easy one to look at here. How much fertilizer do they have on March 10th? 6.5 million tons, or 6.15, excuse me. How much do they need for the rest of the year consumption-wise? 19.3 million. They're like 3 times down on what they need. Where is that going to come from is the question. Short answer, it's not. And then all these NPK fertilizers, yeah, and here, so this is broken down by the different type of fertilizer in the country that relies most on this type of either ammonia, urea, sulfur, and then the NPK blends as well. So if we're looking at the sources and look where all this, it's very cleanly marked. Where is this coming from? Anything with a color on it is the Middle East. So there, India at the top for ammonia again, like ammonium nitrate. If they're going to do any of their own fertilizer production in India, they're going to need the ammonia for ammonium nitrate. You know, so India relies tremendously on ammonia from the Middle East. They're not going to get it. So even it's not just about the. David Ransom makes your podcast hard to listen to. He doesn't have an understanding of what's going on. He's mainstream mindset. Sorry to be negative. He seems like a nice guy. Who's that?
He's talking about me, but if you're looking at the mainstream articles I'm reading, I'm not saying what they're saying.
But you got to look at what are they talking about? See, that's the whole thing is you got to read between the lines. You can't read it for what it is. It's like deciphering a Egyptian wall of hieroglyphs, like the priests would read from right to left, where the plebes would read from left to right, and it would give a completely different meaning. And then the occultists or the actual high-level people would read in a crisscross diagonal fashion and get a different meaning out of the exact same text on the wall. You got to be like an Egyptian priest just dissecting this stuff, man. Come on.
I do wait for some kind of evidence or pattern to show up, but if you've been paying attention to me, I'm saying the headlines before they come around, and then I bring them back up because they happen. Like I said they were going to do that, and I kind of use it to verify, but I've been pretty right for a long time about things coming. And I do
trying to throw you off.
Mainstream.
See, the truth's coming out. You got to get people to dissuade you. Kill the messenger. I thank you very much.
Well, I do use the mainstream because they're the ones putting out all the esoteric lines, the specific phrasing on things. They always show you what they're about to do before they do it. So the mainstream is a good indicator of what's going to happen when you keep in mind that they also are lying to you constantly at the same time. But they like to tell you the truth so that you know what's happening to you when they do it to you. I don't know.
That's a karmatic law. They must. They can't not do that to you. They have to tell you what it is.
Like a lot of people think I'm crazy because I've been telling them AI had been taking over everything, and it's only been until the last 5 years that I could start pumping out articles, CNC. I'm not saying I told you so, but I did mention it.
I'm going to say Herr Starmer is a AI bot. Anyway,
well,
yeah.
I don't try to talk about some stuff.
Can you roll back to that slide before we got distracted by that?
Sorry.
Fishing has been heavy lately. Good. Glad you're bringing it in by the kgs. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the countries that are going to get disrupted the most. Now, in addition to what the fertilizer shortfalls are in India already, urea in India at that line that you see there, and then the ammonia is also disrupted. So if you look at those two, I don't care if they can't make their own fertilizers anymore either. They can't import it, and they can't produce it from the precursors or like the chemicals that you use to make this fertilizer in advance. So India is really between like 6 rocks and getting stuck in a keg dropped on top of their head while they're wedged in the rocks here. India is going to fall based on massive famines and food disruptions. Like that's a no-brainer. That's such a low-hanging fruit to see in this whole fertilizer disrupted. But the other thing with the sulfur, now China has its own sulfur production, but where else are some larger countries that are going to get affected from the urea and from the sulfur? Indonesia and Brazil. If you go past India, the next one down, Brazil. Like Brazil's a major exporter of different base crops out to China. That's their main export market. So now we're getting into this circle where China can't get it and grow it as efficiently. They're going to look for more exports out on the world market, which means they're going to go and rely on Brazil more heavily in South America. But they can't really produce the fertilizers because they don't have the urea itself, or even if they're going to get into their post production, if they're going to do some of their own nitrate fertilizer blends, Brazil just won't have it to push on that corn. So they're going to have to start planting less fertilizer intensive crops, which means that soybeans is out, corn's out, sorghum's out. What are you going to grow with less fertilizer intensive crops? You know, there's a list of them, but I don't think millet and amaranth is really going to fit into some processing facility in China. They generally want soy and corn. You know, wheat's not such a heavy eater, but, you know, it's the wrong season for that. There are going to be a fair few food problems coming up the pike here, and then this for sure. This is the most telling chart that, and then a couple of that in last India chart with this one, and you can clearly see that just within a few months we're going to start to see how Indian production goes. And if they run out of rice or they get way lean on the rice because they don't have enough fertilizer, that's going to. They already ran out of the polypropylene bags to even pack the rice, so they're having a disruption in the country getting rice to everybody because they just don't have any plastic bags to pack the rice to send it to the supermarket. And without that, then they're going back in the old school where they're like scooping it out, putting it on a scale. And that is disrupting. Like people are waiting 3-4 hours in line now to get rice, which is just, you know, I guess send the wife to go pick up rice, or I'll go pick up rice and you go to work, whatever. But send the kids to do it. Oh, wait, they got mugged on the way there. Okay, whatever. They got their rice stolen on the way back, something. I mean, there's some serious difficulties going on here with a lot of things already disrupting in India. This is going to, biggest world's population, not the world's largest economy, and they've been earmarked and slated for population reduction a long time ago anyway. So just it is what it is. And so watch closely on what happens there, because you can start to really get a good gauge. Like you're in a petri dish here. You're in a sandbox. So what happens there will happen to the rest of the planet, just in a slower fashion. So all eyes on India if you want to see what is coming to a country near you. Now, after India, if the straits don't open, then who's the next, or what's the next country? I would say then Indonesia and possibly Brazil, and we'll start to look really at the largest fertilizer importers in the world. And you would take a look at some of those more landlocked countries that need the fertilizer that don't produce it themselves. You're going to start to have a list to check off. Okay, civil unrest here, government over there, famine and population reduction here, economy reset there. We're going to get a very short list in about a minute and a half after we see India go down. Just saying. What's that? Can we not stop this? WTF is like COVID was from the beginning. This is the boss fought. I don't know what
There's
the boss fought.
There's your 33 right there. Somebody was just saying, you know, the mainstream always loves to put that 33 number in there. It's front page, but this is the one I like here, the biggest energy threat in history. It doesn't even work. The biggest energy security threat in history, of all history. This is
this is a biggie. This is a biggie.
It's obvious that this was planned. It's just that they kind of messed up during COVID by pushing a bunch of ideas that had nothing to do with an outbreak. If you remember, they were trying to push some of these ideas like the reduction of work hours, the amount of time traveled, the amount of resources used, all the stuff that they're telling you again right now. They were already telling you that because they were doing the pilot programs. And by the way, did your 24-hour Walmart reopen back up to 24 hours? I don't think it did. And is that because they knew that this era was coming in the next couple of years where they were literally going to have to shut down so that they could reset, not only to install the robotic workforce in the night times in these places, but also because they don't want you in there. You need to go when they want you to buy stuff, when it's put out for you to go get it. And I noticed that Home Depot and all that stuff, they don't have any fertilizers out at all. I mean, I don't usually buy fertilizer from them, but they didn't have any when I went over there. None.
Oh, they're always in those little like 5 pound bags where they overcharge the crap out of you. You need to go to a farmer's co-op and get like 50-pound bags.
Well, I was wondering why so many people bought more of those little things than they normally do, because usually that's packed and people don't even touch it that often.
Well, it is planting season. You got to realize, like my grandma would always fertilize the roses and stuff, and like their vegetable garden. Like this is the time where everybody generally would fertilize out. Now, once that's gone through, and you come into say the middle of the year, some people do, some people don't. But almost everybody generally, when you're planting, you're going to add fertilizer with that. Now, a lot of people are more conscious now using like fish humuses and like algae composts in these algae adjuvants or whatever. There's a lot more things than just NPK now. So people are really on more like the organic stuff. So there's a huge range of this. But see human manure here? That is composting your own poo. But remember, if you pee on your plants, you're giving them already urea, and you're already giving them ammonia and different things they're going to need anyway if you just pee on your plants. I'm just saying that. Make sure you wash them before you eat them. But the human manure definitely needs to be broken down. You just can't poo and go drop it on a plant. You need to run it through a biogas digester or something to break down all the bacteria, the bacterias in there that are going to get you sick, and the amoebas and everything. Like I saw some really cool biogas projects up in Nepal when I was there. They take all the cattle dung, all the human waste, and they throw it in this digester. It's a big old round thing. They build it out of bricks, off the dig down and build it out of bricks. Biogas project in Kathmandu, by the way. You can go check out their work there. But once the thing gets to a certain ratio in with the water and sludge, and it kind of bubbles and breaks down all the bacteria, it flows out on the backside at a certain rate, and that is their fertilizer. So there's a certain ratio in and a certain ratio out. You can't throw like a million billion thing in and expect it to work. There's a full-on ratio for it. So human manure. And yeah, and again, if you have a chance, pee on your plants consistently. Go down the rows, and every time you need to go to the bathroom, all right, finish part of this row, and then go finish part of that row, and make it like a fertilizer schedule. Instead of using your water, it'll save you on your water bill too, than flushing every few times. Just get down and pee on your plants on the outside. Make sure you don't splash it on the leaves. Get down, at the bottom of the plant where it's going to go into the ground. Man. One row at a time, Ransom, one row at a time.
You can't do that out here in Arizona and New Mexico. Your pee evaporates by the time it hits the ground, man.
Oh, shoot, really?
No, I'm kidding.
Scorpions will be there to suck it up.
Actually, what's funny is, everybody's been having these weird drastic weathers. It's quite mild here in the Southwest. We didn't even get the usual freeze that we get around Easter. It got, down in the 40s, and that's it. So I'm wondering if we're going to have another hardcore monsoon summer, or it's just going to be dry and hot because there was no cool off in the Southwest.
Got your answer right here, man. This is your answer. As we see, what does our chart show us? Our chart is showing us that the U.S. drought overlay in the wheat regions is looking nasty, is what that is showing us. So if the grainy chart here from Zero Hedge, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, and Minnesota, pockets of entangled dryness. Okay, that's there. The fires are kind of down in this next section here in the hard red winter wheat belt. When the fires destroy that, they also destroy the cattle. They destroy the grazing land for the cattle, meaning most farmers will sell their herds instead of spending that to feed them and water them with expensive feed. If you're not going to let them graze, you're going to get rid of your herds. So this is just a fast track way for people to get rid. And really the herds are super, super low anyway. I think like at a 100-year low now anyway. So if they were going to cause fires to then have these farmers sell the rest of the herds off in this area here, that would constrict our beef supply further. But again, that was the plan, was it not? You're not supposed to eat meat. You're supposed to be lab grown, whatever. You're not going to eat meat. Remember, the protein sources were going to be limited and restricted. Damn it, that's two. No airline travel and less meat consumption. This all is playing out into a perfect picture here. And the hard red winter wheat, that's where you are, Ransom, down in that belt. Well, and actually, you're just a little bit left there, Colorado area out here. So that's its own.
Right there at that little yellow spot down there.
We're down here?
Right above that line, that dark line. I'm like right above it.
Okay. I don't know why they have it constricted the L by itself here, but.
Well, that's the mouth of the Rio Grande that goes into Mexico there and down to Texas.
And
which
then we
is
got
supposed
the
to be
South.
super dry.
Well, the Southeast wheat, soft red winter. I was in Tennessee right here. The wheat was coming in really good before we left. So they're not as big a drought like down in Georgia in the South. Like all these areas are like fire zones now, and there's some big forest up in here, To wheat, you showed me that aluminum chart here, and we're also looking at wheat charts coming in from Bloomberg. So the hard red winter wheat, 2-year highs, but you're like, okay, whatever. But if overall in context, it's probably, it got much, much, much higher in 2011 than it is now. So it's not like a be all end all thing. But here's so interesting. Mid-April, 61% of the lower 48 in the Northern Hemisphere is stunted growth. And the farmers chose not to plant. They didn't have enough fertilizer, and then they used the extra convenient excuse of, I'm not going to plant into drought soils with no fertilizer. No rain on the horizon, and then finally there is some rain, but you're talking about a week, 2 ago. There was no rain on the horizon. So would you be a farmer, and would you plant into dry soils with no fertilizer praying for rain? Or would you just say, I'm going to skip it this year and I'm going to take on the crop insurance? I don't know. The current conditions, 51% of the U.S. and 61% of the lower 48 drought. 148 million people. How many cows are there, though, is my question. How many cows are in this area? This is a pretty, I've seen this drought monitor way, way, way more red than this over the last 15 years. So, I mean, it's droughty, but it's not like as bad as it's been over some prior years when it's really drought-ridden. So maybe I'll leave it at that there. Let me see if I can not share. Oh, there we are. Stop sharing that thing. So it's coming at us from all angles. The projected, this is in the entire automotive and diesel truck delivery spaces associations. This is coming from every angle, from what you consider smaller, like in-city delivery trucks, smaller mienbachos, all the way up to 18-wheelers with 53-foot containers on them rolling down our highways. Like every industry association, whether it's reefers and refrigerated deliveries, or if it's from container deliveries, the box goods, or whatever's inside, or break bulk, anything that's on this, doesn't matter. All industries are saying the same thing. They're all going to raise their prices by about 10% for delivery. So far as of this week. Now we haven't even really gotten into the fuel price rises yet. So everything you buy is going to be at least 10% more, just because of the delivery costs, which are going to get passed on to the retailer, which is going to pass the cost on to you, divided by how many units are in that, let's say, a container. Let's say you get a container brought in. The shipping was $4,000. It costs an extra $400, and there's 20,000 of widgets in there. They're going to add that $400 in, divide it, and every widget, they're probably going to raise it to 800, and then every widget's going to get an extra few cents on there. Well, the plastic bottles themselves, they are raising 12 cents per bottle, every bottle. So everywhere you look, everything you buy, the plastics are going to cost more, the transportation's costing more, the wheat's costing more, everything's costing more.
Stupid buttons. Sorry. My mouse stuck.
And I lost my feed.
No, you're there. I did want to go back to this thing here, which is just an AI mainstream prediction here. But the idea that in the next 4 years, your groceries are going to go up 26%. And last week I showed you that they had already gone up 40% in the last 5 years. Excuse me, not the last 5 years, in the last 2 presidents. So 15 years, it went up 40%, and then another, I'm just rounded off to 30%. But you get down in here, and they're talking about, some of the amount of people. I think it was 513 million people they were talking about, they thought was going to be in starvation. Because I got a different answer this time when I asked it. But last time it was looking at, I believe it said 513 million people were going to be at the starving or famine status. Just in the next 4 years.
That's only one out of 14 people on the planet. You're going to have to bump that number up if you're a globalist, 1 out of 2. So here's a number. Here's a little, I didn't know, maybe you could fill me in. I remember United States Postal Service price increase tomorrow. So again, that's all on the delivery costs of things. So if you're not going to eat, people still get packages. So I'm telling you, every possible way you can look at something, life price for all of us is going up. It's just unbelievable how the
I bet
postal prices are going up too.
right. I bet those people that bought all those forever stamps are happy now.
Yeah, right.
Matter of fact, somebody sent me a book of those a couple of years ago, and I still have them. And just imagine the amount that it keeps going up, and then you got these stamps. I imagine that in the near future, they're going to say that you have to use a certain amount of them, even though they're forever stamps. You're gonna have to use more of them to mail stuff so that they could, get their money back. And I would expect that the mail service is probably going to go bankrupt in the next 5 years anyway.
Yeah, $5 single tomatoes in Canada this week. Ouch. But I like this positive statement here, focusing on abundance, sharing seriously. Well, that's the reason we're doing the show, so you can get more ready. Everybody can get more ready. $16 for a pound. Yeah, because this is all about, we could do something else with our time, but I really appreciate y'all staying here with us. And please share this show tonight and also the links out to other people to try to get them to join in the conversation as well. Because we're all in this together. As you see, this is a global event coming from many sides where the oil affects the gas affects the fertilizer affects the food production, the gas affects the plastic, the oil itself and the refined petrol products affect the transportation costs, and then everything just keeps looping in on itself. Where one rises, then it creates this loop to create rises and everything else. It's a never-ending upward spiral. Like, we're not going to get out of this until one of these things stops and it comes back down to normal levels, but that won't be until after the conflict stops. So do think about abundance and there's more opportunity than there has been in human history right now, because there's going to be more disruptions. So how are you able to dissolve somebody else's disrupted life? That is going to be the key to survival here, because you will always be in a needed position if you're able to find that which others are being broken away from. That old lifestyle or that need or that service or that good or whatever they used to rely on is no longer there. Now, how do you step in and substitute that service? This is the opportunity. This is the biggest opportunity since the Roman Empire. There's going to be more disruption than the Roman Empire. So how do you also provide services to smooth that disruption or replace the disruption with something else? That's the way you need to come at looking at it, because this is a blessed time to be alive. It's a great time to be alive. And if we can help others while we're alive at this time to smooth through this mess, then that's the greatest gift we can all give. $16 for a pound of hamburger. Isn't that much? What's the average wage right now for minimum wage in America?
It's like $12 here.
Yeah, so you're paying more than an hour's wage for a pound of ground beef.
That sounds like some stuff back in the day. Right. You know what? I was reading further on this thing, and so they're saying overall, with all the factors combined, that food prices will be 50% more by 2030.
Way too low. Are you insane? That could be by the end of the year. That's way too low. Way too low.
Well, we got 4 years.
Yeah. No, it is time to get ready. Like, you're going to have to rely more on yourselves now. These systems are going to be, how many more times can we say it? The centralized systems are starting to crack on purpose. Like, if you can't see it happening around you in real time, it's like one of those movies where they step on the ice and they really make it dramatic in Hollywood, where they step on and it goes before you actually fall through. It makes like a million crack sounds. Right. You just stepped on the ice and you're listening to the crack sounds all around you as all these systems start to dissolve in real time and constrict.
Well, I was thinking, if anybody is thinking about starting to grow their own food, there's so many good things to grow that are easy, like tomatoes, squash, chilies. I wouldn't say corn for where I'm at, but maybe in some other places they could grow it a little easier if they had more water. But some of those things you could just basically put outside, and it just keeps growing you food every two or 3 days. And you don't have to eat it. You can save it. You can freeze it or can it or whatever. And until you're really looking at those grocery bills thinking, wow, maybe I'll just start eating some of this stuff we canned.
And I want to start eating that rattlesnake that you almost stepped on outside front door. Bring a little small shotgun with you wherever you travel. Shotgun, shotgun, will travel. You can get snake shot too for like a 22. You can blast those rattlesnakes, dude. Protein source coming to you at the front door. Snake shot. That's going to be an essential for anybody, really. No kidding. Like small animal game stuff, like snake shot is a good one on a 22. Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. Civilization Cycle, please sign up for the newsletter. I'll be getting that out. I'll probably get it around 12 hours from now this morning, coming up on Friday morning. It's just the 10 bullet points that we talked about during our show tonight, so you can share with friends and family, try to make it the most important points, and then keep the conversation going. You can do more research. If you covered a lot of information, you can tag that up and go, oh, yeah, they talked about that or this, and then you can do your own research. Civilizationcycle.com. Just put your email in there. We'll get you the show notes. Also, yeah, thank you so much for the donations in the Buying Us Double Espressos tonight on the Civilization Cycle Buy Me a Coffee channel over there. Try to keep this production. We do have, software costs that we're running through every month here. So thank you for that. Pays for all of our streaming software and other things that we do need. Upgrades for gear sometimes, all that. So anyway, until next time, please get prepared. This is starting to get real. You can hear the cracks across the ice.